Hello, everybody, and welcome to DefTalk. My name is Defcamp, and we are here joined today with my lovely, very lovely, with his Eagles hat on, that very sinister face you have right now, my brother Melderon. Say hello to everyone, Melderon.
Hey, everyone. Loktar.
And we have a very special guest with us today, a member of the community, someone that was very eager to reach out and give his perspective about Classic WoW and what he loves about it. We have with us Batjohn. How are you doing today, Batjohn?
Hello. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We're coming close to the holidays. Got a lot of good feels going on. I'm a big fan of the holidays. So, but it's also a great time to talk about Classic WoW and what we love about it.
Every day is a good day to talk about Classic WoW.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. So we'll start off where we start off with everyone.
Yes.
How were you introduced to Classic WoW or WoW in general, and how did you start playing?
Well, I had played a lot of Warcraft 3, and I guess it was in the days where you just kept playing Diablo 2 forever.
Yeah.
Just, with no purpose, just keep on grinding anything in Diablo 2. And I was in, I guess it's the Danish equivalent of high school, and my friend told me about this game that was Warcraft, but a world of Warcraft, and you could kill animals and you can cook their food and you could take their skins off and wear them as armor. And I was like, you are lying, what is this? And he took me home and he showed it to me, and I got to just create my own character on his computer. And I rolled a Tauren hunter, because that's the obvious choice.
Oh, yeah.
Like fuck 9/11, this is the day I never forget.
That's awesome.
Just walking on those plains, and it was the nighttime music with the strings doing the high notes, like very melancholic.
Mm-hmm.
And you just stood there, and there was this Planestrider ostrich, whatever the fuck that is. And you just, I don't know if I could cuss, by the way, but
you can go ahead.
Yeah. And just standing there, and these 4 to 5 different gunshot sounds, and the strings, and the planes, and this pace, and I was just like, my pupils just dilated to teacups. It was, I just got hit, and that atmosphere right there was, that was hard, and then you just you got into the Barrens, and saw the world expand, and I was just moving around for years after that. It was awesome.
So you were, it sounds like there was no other game that you played that was similar to WoW beforehand. Like
No, I had never tried. I've seen an MMO. I think it was Asheron's Call or something.
Mm-hmm.
That my sister used to play with some boyfriend, and it looked horrible. That was what I thought, anyways, because I thought graphics mattered at the time. Yeah. So no, I played. I came from Blizzard, like grew up with Blizzard and Half-Life and stuff like that.
Same with us, yeah.
And Vampire the Masquerade was like a role-playing game I loved a lot too. I don't know if you know it.
No, I've actually not.
Oh, you missed out, man. But that's a lot of story. So I hadn't tried any game of the scale, and the kind of game you can just keep on playing. I guess Diablo 2 had the same kind of longevity to it, but not in the same way. So we were just hooked. A couple of guys from the class. We disappeared from our lives and turned into this.
I can drive you there.
Immediately hooked, huh?
Yeah.
Just
hook, line, and sinker.
Walking around and listening to Tool and gaming all day.
I can relate to that.
So did you eventually stick with that Tauren hunter, or what did you? How was your progression?
Well, I think.
And this was during Classic, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this was during Classic. I don't know if it was at 04 or 05. I think it was a few months into it. I think I leveled him up to 40 something, and then I hit that wall everybody hits, and then I tried messing around with other things. I made a Night Elf warrior that was an herbalist and an alchemist, and that was, some people had a lot of respect for me for trying that, and I understood why after a while. So I tried, and I ended up maining a rogue for a long time. And I feel like there's World of Warcraft and then there's Tearful Glades, and it's like two different games entirely. Because Tearful Glades is just this. It's just this horror theme kind of with the music and everything. I just love that place.
I love it too. It is
and
one of my favorite. Yeah.
So I feel like that place just separates itself from the rest of the game so much.
It's a very unique zone.
Yeah. Exactly. So that rogue, it melded into my personality as a rogue. I feel like that coming from there. So I ended up playing him for a long time.
So it's interesting what you said. Does the backstory or the environment or the ambiance kind of drive your character progression? Do you like get into the role playing aspect of the character?
A little. My friend had rolled his. He was a Torrent Druid, and he was on Earthen Ring, which was an RP server. So I just followed him. I didn't know, how it mattered. So I actually play on Earthen Ring still when I play retail.
Oh, nice.
Every now and then, yeah. But it has been, it's been a dead server for many years because RP is just not that prominent. And I did it a little because back then, I remember getting into a guild, doing RP to kind of, as a test if I could get in. So I had to do all this RP talking to get, and I kind of liked it actually. And sometimes I like to know, just hitting that slash button on your keypad and just walking around and making angry. Murmur to yourself like, "Oh, why is everything so annoying in this place? I'm grumpy, la la la," and just to make a show for everybody else, and people would giggle, and that was, but that's all.
I love that, man. I remember when I played my first character was Alliance, and Stormwind was in the Cathedral District, and I wasn't even on an RP server, but there was a lot of RPers on the server for whatever reason, and they all would meet up in the Cathedral District and have their auditions. Yeah, and it was so cool because you would see this guy like decked out in tier 2. He would be wearing like the whole tier 2 set of paladin, and he would have this line of paladins behind him, and they would basically audition for the RP guild, and it was so cool. And they would have this backstory. They have to tell their backstory. They would have to tell, how this character, who they are, and what. Who they fight for? They fight for the Lions, or they fight, the Scarlet Crusade, or anything like that. It was just so cool seeing these people's stories. And this is before you had that RP add-on. I forget what it was called, all RP or whatever. And
I never used it.
Yeah, because you didn't really. I mean, I felt it was cooler having to do everything yourself. But
I felt like RP was a part of the game back then that could pop up if you felt like it. I remember doing dungeons, and you would flirt as your character with the other female characters because that was just the obvious thing to do, even though they were undead. And you were like, oh, and you had this little dungeon flirt in Scarlet Monastery, and then you never spoke again. But it was funny.
It was, and for someone who has played retail kind of recently, back in Legion, I don't see that happen. It happens a lot and a lot less. And when I played vanilla, it happened almost all the time. Like I was always exploring the different emotes and the different, getting ready to attack South Shore, /charge. Here we go. Like standing around and everyone's speaking in battle terms and stuff like that. It doesn't happen nowadays.
I can say to this day on my rogue, whenever I cannibalize, I have him say "must feed." Just like the mobs in Warcraft 3,
Oh yeah,
that's where I got from it.
That's a good point. So this is going to sound really basic, but when I had my Death Knight in Wrath, I'm sure every Death Knight had this emote at some point. But I did like the get over here when I did the Death Grip, from Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah, so I've seen. I'll admit right now, I was not the first person to think of this. I saw another Death Knight do it, and I'm like, that is awesome. So I did the same thing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And there's even an add-on that will, of course, it's just your side, it's player side, that plays Scorpion saying "get over here" whenever you use it, so you hear it in your headphones. Nice. Yeah, it's really cool. But it's a story for another day, I guess. So. Yeah. I like to move on because we usually take the introductions out of the way, and we're trying to be more topic-based. So you brought some interesting topics out, and I wanted to talk about one of the things you're really passionate about, and it's the perspective of the everyday gamer in a world where YouTube is dominated by non-casuals, I guess this is the word I can say, even though I consider myself a casual.
Professional players.
Professional is the word, thank you. Yeah. So what do you think... what do you think? Do you think the voices of the everyday gamer or the average gamer gets drowned out due to these big personalities?
One of the things that gets brought up a lot when you talk about Classic WoW is just the end game rating, for instance. So that's a big topic, and you talk a lot about the fine tuning and the choices with the debuffs or the patch progression. When will they release this patch and that patch and this content, and is this dungeon gonna mess up the gear loot from this dungeon and so on?
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I've got the time to do any of that, and I'm just worried that the discussion is going to be about that 1% of players that only get to do those things. And I feel like a lot of YouTubers are those guys, because you have the time. Like in a lot of games, you're the guys that gets the games anyways, because you're going to do the content about them. And I have to even consider if I want to spend my money on it, because it's a whole other thing for me to do a subscription. I guess because I have only my own enjoyment to get out of it, and so
that's a very valid point. I think a lot of
that's a very valid. I'm sorry.
A lot of YouTube content and streaming content, I think, is predominantly dedicated towards people who are min-maxing the game. And we're guilty of this somewhat. So half of our content is more guidey type stuff, or discussion about min-max type of stuff. But to be perfectly honest, I myself have come to the realization that this point in my life and this age that I'm at right now, that I will be a casual player the rest of my life. There will never be a time again where I'll be sitting in my mom's basement playing Wrath of the Lich King for 10 hours a day. It's not going to happen anymore. So I think that for, what we try to do is try to dedicate half of our content towards more, I hate using this word, but softer community-based content like Classic WoW Tales or Y Classic. Because let's face it, the majority of players of Classic WoW will be casual, and they're important. They're vastly important, because if we don't have people that are investing in the life of the server and the more community-based events, the server's going to die. If we have a bunch of min-maxers running around, it's just, you lose that classic experience. It becomes BFA, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
End game progression.
That's a really good point, because, and we already see this start to happen with certain fan sites that focus on, what time is this group finishing the Molten Core by? If they're over 4 hours, they're a bunch of noobs. You know what I mean? And it's like the focus of Classic has always been more, for me at least, and then I am someone who tends to go into the. I always been like a hardcore raider. I've spent a lot of time with raiding and stuff like that, and sometimes I have to take a step back and say, what, am I really enjoying this right now? And you're absolutely right. It's a very fair thing to say, because you see a lot of people online. It's usually their living of what they're doing is playing this game, and they have all the time to be, a raider who min-maxes, who gets all the best gear, who does all this. But it's not a really good show for the kind of people that are all watching it. Yeah, maybe a few of them watching it are also in the same category, but like Melderon stated, the huge majority of people playing WoW, whether it's Classic WoW, whether it's Retail WoW, are casual players.
Yeah,
and I feel like, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this. And I do feel that Vanilla WoW is uniquely, I wouldn't say it's more casual friendly than the rest of the game, but it is balanced in a way, because so much of Vanilla WoW is the leveling process. And it's about finding your character, who you love, and like with our series, like Classic WoW Tales, where you create your own journey, and you don't even have to engage in the end game at all, and still you are playing a huge portion of Vanilla WoW with just a leveling process. And I think that's something that's underplayed a little bit sometimes, and that's overpassed when we talk about things like progression and things like that. And do you feel that way about WoW? Do you think it can be casual friendly when you look at it in the light of the leveling process and things like that?
Yeah, I think the good thing about it is that you have this, comparing WoW, Vanilla WoW to BFA is like BFA it consists of a lot of circles, and Vanilla WoW is these very, very, very long linear paths that you can choose and create as you go, and that is, that is so much more immersive, and that's so much more of a journey. And if you don't want to, race to any end goal, you can just take it as a journey and an experience, and you can get so much a mediocre green loot that could mean the world to you.
Absolutely.
It just makes you able to do something, and there's always this harder content you'll get to that you couldn't do before, and if you mess around and you find a profession and try and make your own armor or whatever, all of a sudden you can do something you couldn't do before, or you get better, or you get a new skill, and this slow progression is, there's so much more time for a new player or a casual player to fool around and find his way, where I feel like in very modern games, there's always a meta, and you have to figure out what it is or look it up, and if you don't get it, then you're not invited. And
that's a good point.
But I'm afraid that there's an elitist, I guess I have a concern that, there's going to be a group of people that just want to hit 60 because they've seen the world, and the game is, I remember playing, leveling through BC once, and I had this coworker, and we figured out, we found out we both played WoW, and it was like in BC, and I was like 60 whatever, and he was like, oh man, the game doesn't start until you're 70. And I was just like, fuck you, yes it does. I'm having the time of my life going through these zones. And the game shouldn't be like that, and I don't like that. I'm afraid that this attitude is being the meta in classic WoW, because we've seen everything, and we can look everything up, and you can find your way through all the content. You don't have to go to that stupid Silgian troll in the Stone Talon Mountains. There's no flight path, and there's no logical. You have to find him in the mountains. It's the damnedest quest in the world to find him, and then he sends you away, and you just spend 2 days running around just to get him 3 quests, And you can skip that now because you've done it, so you don't need to go through that again. But at the same time, the thing I want to do when I get back in is I want to try and see all the dungeons.
That's very fair. A lot of people, the whole elitist, like you said, because of streaming, because of YouTube, it's become a lot more popular. The whole elitist type of play, the whole play style. But one could argue that the heart and soul of vanilla is in the heart of the casual.
So I want to bring some data to back that up, Defcamp. So if you're not aware, I'll put a link in the description. There's recently been a new poll been posted in our Classic WoW by I don't know who actually posted it, but Super Soka just did a video on it last night. He took all the data, compressed it together. He's also a fellow PhD. Shout out to him. If you don't know who Super Soka is, go over and check out his thing. So he did a scientific analysis of all this data, and what he showed is the vast majority of players are expecting to take multiple months to level to 60. So exactly. I think that if you so I'll put the link in this survey. Do the survey, number one. Number two, check out his video, and you can also look at the results. So there are some unsurprising results in there. Warriors are the most popular class. Shaman are the least popular class. But there's like this big, the overarching message of this survey is that the casual player base is the largest player base. So I definitely recommend checking that out, because I think that'll quell a lot of the fear that a lot of casuals may have, thinking that Classic's going to be an environment of solely people who are min-maxing the game, and that's honestly not true. And I think that we may see that somewhat on private servers, but I think coming closer to launch, many more people from BFA or returning players are going to our Classic WoW and experiencing things. So we're seeing more of a data spread now than what we've seen maybe a year ago. If we were polling just the private server community, we would have seen a much more, I think, min-max distribution. Yes. But that's changing.
And I think, a lot of people that are used to the private server mentality is that, it's very, you guys are the word casual has been thrown around like it's some kind of a lot recently, casual, you're a filthy casual, you're, all this filthy, like it's like a negative.
It's like a C word.
Exactly. Yeah. And it shouldn't be, because when WoW first came out, everyone was a casual in a sense. I mean, you all started out playing, we all didn't know what was at the end of this journey, and a lot of people took the journey and they went with it, and they took it more seriously than others. But that's not the right word, because some people take it just as serious leveling their character, creating their character, making it this role-playing experience, and then some other person might just want to race to 60, get the most powerful they can, and it's all about your experience, and everyone's experience in WoW is, and that's the beautiful thing about it. But I really believe the answer will lie within the community, within guilds. And I think if we can make sure that we go within the right guilds, the right population, because each server is different, find the guild for you, the guild that is more focused towards casual, friendly people. You don't want to get involved in a guild that's going to be min-maxing when you're not the type of player, because you will be the outcast in that experience. Well, so I think the answer is guilds for that.
As you said yourself, there's a balance to Classic WoW when it comes to this. I think the guys that want to min-max, they're going to skip ahead, and you're never going to see them if you're not one of them. So that's going to be, I guess, a caveat. But then there's the thing with the economy. If they can start exploiting things you don't know about, and they start, monopolizing parts of the game. But it is what it is, and I guess if everybody wants to re-experience it, it's a part of what comes along. I think where I'm most concerned about this is when the discussion about Classic WoW before it comes out is very strong. And I'm not hating on the guy or anything, but I feel like every time Osman Gold talks about casuals, I feel like, and maybe because I haven't seen too much of him, but it's just an impression I have, that when he talks about casuals, I feel like he thinks that casuals are not less worthy players, but they're half-assed about it all, so they kind of make the game into something that he doesn't appreciate, so they ruin his experience.
Yeah,
if you can get what I mean.
Yeah. Osman Gold. So we just had a conversation with our friend Dan, who we're trying to get on to DefTalk here, but Osman Gold is a very, very unique individual, and I think that someone like him, maybe I'm old now, but I can't think of anyone in my personal circle of friends who can sit around and play video games all day. I can't. Yeah. I mean, we do this as a hobby mostly. We have full-time jobs. Well, me not right now. I'm in transitioning between jobs, but you're
gonna get there.
Yeah, hopefully. But Osman Gold, he sits in his house all day and plays video games. He's out of touch with reality. In my personal,
exactly.
I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but at the same time, he's a unique.
He just lives another life, and I don't think he represents anybody but Osman Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fair to a certain extent, because, and the guy's personality is great. I think that's why he gets a lot of viewers.
Yeah,
on Twitch
whatever. Peace with all that. But the thing is, he's just such a big voice.
Right,
and that's if anybody gets heard, then he will be one of them, and
that's the issue, right? Because
that's I don't know if I'm concerned, but it's just okay, well, but I'm not you, and I don't ever get to be you, and I don't. Yeah. And if he gets his way, then where am I left? And how many of me are there out here? I'm not that special. I'm just a dude with a job, and I like games. And
it's funny too, because I actually for a second there was even talking because I was saying, because certain people are more serious about the game. If you're a casual or if you're a min-maxer, doesn't mean one is more serious than the other. You're serious in the game in just a different way than I am. Or, because I play casually sometimes, and sometimes I play like a min-maxer or an elitist, whatever you want to call it. And, it does, just because someone is a casual, and I think we've gotten this sense where people joke about it, but it's gotten a lot of the way where people feel like, oh, he's a casual, he's doesn't reflect on how I play the game. But you got to realize this is an MMO, it's a social game, social experience. Everyone is having a different experience. I'm having a different experience than you. He's having a different experience than me. We all have different experiences, and I think we have to respect and say that, okay, just because this person plays the game the way they do doesn't mean that they're less serious than I am, that they deserve to experience it in a way that isn't as good as mine, or and isn't as special as mine. And it has become this huge thing where you're a special snowflake, whatever you want to call it, elitist, basically does sometimes, you see it now with BFA and in a lot of the games, and a lot of the casual people say, why is Blizzard adhering and really changing the game based on how 1% of the game plays it? And I understand that, and I understand the frustration with that, and I understand that that's not always the best way to go ahead and do things. And I think Classic is in a unique place where there's so much to do for the casual player as well as the min-maxer player. And
yeah, that's the beauty of it. And I think there's room for both in
absolutely.
in Classic. And I think being a casual and knowing that potentially there's this very, 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 very high goal you could reach, that's luring. That makes you go forward.
It makes the world so much bigger too.
Exactly. And that I remember, when I had when I first taught my Hunter's Mark spell on my first Hunter, and my friend was a bit ahead of me, and he talked about the end bosses of whatever the raid was at the time. It was probably just MC, and I was like, dude, I know how to do that boss. When we get there, I have this spell. It's called Hunter's Mark. It makes him take more damage. If we could just go in there, everybody. I didn't know anything about instance content. You can't recreate that because that's being the noob from back then. But you can have this this path ahead of you instead of just doing BFA as a casual. I leveled to 120 in a week, and then I just started doing the same circles over and over again, like 3 or 4 circles. One was, what was it? The islands, the world quests. Some dungeons. I do the war fronts as little as humanly possible because I think they're almost as offensive as the turtle quests.
No, the Charlie Crusader, yeah.
No, the turtle quest.
Oh, the turtle quest. Sorry.
You're sitting here. You have this spell, and you can shoot a pigeon or a seagull or a crab. Otherwise, 12 turtles won't make it into the water. I hate it, man.
It's so ridiculous.
I am 30 years old or more, and I've been playing this game for I don't know how long. I killed Arthas. I am not shooting seagulls to save a turtle.
That's kind of funny.
I don't know. I don't care how many million gold you put behind that quest. I'm not doing it.
I'm going to go back to the point where you said about the Hunter's Mark and all, because the beauty of the game for me was learning about all these things and seeing everything in a new light. And you think things one thing, and then you learn, oh my God, it's so different. And so often now I'll play and I'll be like, oh, I got to race to get to 60 so I can PvP, so I can raid. And then all of a sudden I play a new class and I'm like, man, it is so nice to just stop and smell the roses and oh my God, I played this new class that I have never played before, and I got this new ability, and it's awesome. I got to level 30 or whatever, and I got this ability, and it's so cool, and I never experienced it before. And it's like being able to do that, I'm getting there, where I've almost played every class in Classic, and I want to be able to still have that enjoyment of not knowing something and figuring it out for the first time. That's a big reason why I stopped playing currently on Northdale, because I've done MC, I've done the BWL and ZG and all that, and the guild that I was playing with, they went on to their own server where they wanted to progress on all these raids so they would be ready for Classic and know every fight. I want to go into Classic not knowing what to do for exactly. I never got into Nax. I never played Nax. I want to go into Nax and learn with my guild how to overcome this journey, how this fight, because that for me is the enjoyment of the game. If I know everything and min-max everything, for me, it takes the fun out of it. It's almost like playing with cheats or playing with codes. I want to learn. I want to experience. Just because I don't know everything, I never claim to know everything, and I think that's a great way to look at the game. And on the other hand, there's the part of me that wants to be prepared in certain things, but I think I'm prepared enough to be able to be ready for it. I know I am. For Nax, I've been, I've done Mythic Raid before in Legion and other, and I didn't know the fights before. I looked them up on YouTube or whatever. Yeah, but all in all, I went in there not knowing what to do, and I learned it myself. And for me, I want to leave a little bit streak. For me, that's Nax and a little bit of AQ. Yeah. So. Yeah,
I guess that's the casual privilege that we have, because I have so much ahead of me I didn't do before. Like I was saying before, I remember doing a lot of dungeons, but I just don't remember anything mechanically in there. I don't remember my action bars whatsoever. I remember meleeing a boss in Scarlet Monastery as 100 because I had this awesome new 2-hand axe, and I was like, he's gonna taste it, but it made no sense, and I don't know. I don't remember anybody reprimanding me about it, but
they
I want to try.
Yeah.
I want to try that, and I want to know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because that came so much later than back then, and I want to try something new. I've been a rogue for 100 years, and I've done the hunter a few times, and I've seen your shaman tanking guide, and I'm like, that's a challenge, and maybe that's the way to go about it, and that's maybe the entire can turn into a big raid for me instead.
Yeah, I want to say. So when Super Soaker did that analysis, 2% of all tanks that said they're going to tank endgame, 2% were shaman on Horde.
Yeah,
I just want to say 2%.
Oh 2%. Wow, there you go.
So
that's
hey,
awesome.
That's great. That's an elite. That's a very niche group, and I powered all those people who want to do that in game. On Alliance, Paladin was obviously a lot higher. I think it was like 10, 15%, something like that. But 2% on Horde wanted to be Shaman.
That's so cool.
2% of the smallest population. So actually, Shaman was only 7% of total people wanted to play Shaman. 7.9% were Paladin. Shaman were the least popular class. I'm actually proud of that. I want to be part of the minority, and then you could be a minority of a minority, but if you want to tank, right? So that's a unique thing.
So unique.
That Classic can only really provide, and I think that's
absolutely
really cool.
And that is why I'm such a huge advocate. And I always tell people, if you never tried something, try it. If you never tried tanking, you're afraid of it, just try it. The other day, I was like, I want to respec Ret on my Holy Paladin on this old server, and I was like, I want to try it. And I had so much fun. And it's getting smaller and smaller for things that I've never done. But now, it's the time to do it. When class comes out, I never played Shaman. I want to do it. And I'm so used to, I'm going to play Priest again. I'm going to go do this again, so I can be the best at this. But really, when it comes down to it, I want to have that classic experience. And how else can I do that by playing a class that I'm not familiar with, maybe that I need to learn a little bit about? And I think that's the best way for me to recreate that classic experience.
Yeah, one of the biggest part of that is the feeling of, oh shit, an enemy, because you don't get that very often anymore. Enemies are just you just kill them, or you just approach them with this dead face, and you're like, how do
you don't have to worry about spell resistance.
They're a nuisance. They're a nuisance.
That's just how many can I take, and if I die, it's like, okay, I miscalculated. Okay, I don't care. I'm moving on.
Yeah, one of the crappiest parts about living on a Frost Mage is when you come up to a Frost Elemental or immune to Frost Beast, and you're like, oh, I have to use other spells now. That's great.
I think that it has gravity.
It definitely has gravity, absolutely. So, Batjohn, something I also want to transition to is the no changes movement, which kind of riffs off of what we just talked about. But you had said previously in the discussion how Osman Gold's epic rant about you're going to wear those purple pants and you're going to whatever, you're going to loot lag in the Barrens. So how do you feel? I mean, I know real quick personally, the no change movement for us was very important because it was, in my eyes, damage control. So. And I know that many of people think we're on a very, very crazy end of that spectrum. But I want to say that I'm open to listening to because Taladril's the person who actually totally screwed my head up. When we had that talk with Taladril, he really made me rethink a lot of dungeon tuning and stuff like that. So
world buffs.
World buffs. Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think the no changes movement do you think it inherently could hurt the classic community, or do you think that? What are your perspectives?
It's important.
On it? Yeah.
Well, it's tricky because I of course I understand where people come from, but I think it's a bit naive to think that you can get the same experience again, because it's just impossible with just basic stuff like we actually did it before. So the not knowing part is just dead. So I guess the big question is, what is it you really want to recreate, and who is it that asks for classic WoW? Is it everyone or just someone? And I think the pool of who it is larger than we think. And my point is that, of course, I'm not sitting here advocating for sharding and big all the
LFG stuff like that.
No, no reason to talk about that because I recognize the community parts of it. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, you know, how nitpicky are we gonna get with? I don't even know. I don't think
you said your example was loot lagging in the Barons.
Any progression.
Well, yeah, the loot lagging in the Barons. Like I remember Osman Gold saying that he wanted to keep it because it was in there back in the day, so it should be just like then. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I don't care. It doesn't matter, man. I think if they're smart about it, they will script the bug in once for every character, so everybody feels it, and then it would never appear again. That would be the awesome thing, because then we can giggle about it, but it wouldn't be game breaking. But you know, stuff like that just, you know, delays you. I'm not saying putting more flight paths or mailboxes or anything like that. I'm just saying, what's the most important thing they can do compared to other things? And are we gonna make 1,000 YouTube videos complaining about what's not right instead of, you know, having the good vibes about this? Yeah. Because I think all this cautionary tale, you know, style videos that are plenty right now. Everybody's bitching about Blizzard, and of course they are, because they're in the right to. Everything is going havoc over there. It seems, but trying to make this game, you know, 110% sublime like you remember it is just, I think it's a waste of breath, and I think
it's impossible.
It's an impossible goal.
And if I don't know how this works, but if you YouTube guys, if you are heard as much by the people behind this as you're heard by us that you kind of represent, then I could just worry that you would, you know, steer the course into a detail that maybe wasn't too important sometimes.
I agree. So I think a daily thing for us, and I know I'm talking for you, Defcamp, but I know a daily thing for me when I create content is I think to myself, is this piece of content representative of most of the player base? And so, you know, that's hard. So as a content creator, I think it's hard for us to kind of think when we create when I think about a piece of content and I say, okay, my next video is going to be this, or a future video is going to be this, and I write it down on my little to-do list, and I have a little brainstorming thing that I write all my stuff down. I think to myself, am I doing this for me? Am I doing this for the community? Am I doing this for money? Am I doing this, you know, what is the end goal here? And I think most of the time what's really important is we create content that is representative of the community at large, because that's our job. Our job really as a content creator, it's like being a member of the press. Your job as a member of the press is to represent the citizens, is to
of our community,
of our community. Yes, of our community. So I think that, you know, that's the big deal here, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, you know, when I make content, or I'm thinking about, okay, like, you know, is this something that, of course, this is something that feel very strong, and I like how you look at things, Melderon. You look at you know, certain things with, you want it almost as like it's a piece of art that you're trying to make so that the future generations or whatever can experience similar to what you experience. Of course, it's never going to be the same experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, I realize that, of course, it's never going to be the same experience, but I don't think it's an unrealistic goal to try to get as close as we can. And I think it's very important to keep in mind the technology, right? You know, like the loot lagging issue, that was based on the technology that we had back then. I don't think we should have to, you know, recreate it to make it seem like we're using the same technology today, like having that loot lag and having servers crashing all the time. That's a crazy goal. That would be very unrealistic. And
plus, what AAA company is going to do something like that?
Right, and of course, and you think about a lot of the bugs that were oversights, things that ended up being in the game that weren't intentionally there, and ended up being there for a long time. Some of them throughout all of Classic. And a lot of those things you have to look at and kind of see, okay, you know, does this play into the experience? Is it important for the experience? If it is, if it isn't. And, you know, when I get to the end of the day is, if it's important to the experience and it needs to be there to make the game feel as it is, you know what I mean? And for me, those are certain things. Those are, like I said, for me, it's the gameplay, it's the animation, things like that. And those are the core things that we should focus on. Other things, when it comes to like lagging and certain bugs, things like that, that is just noise. It's white noise that is just taking up too much energy right now.
Yeah. Let me just be clear real quick. The reason I reached out to you guys is because I feel like you represent me more than a lot of others do. Of course, you gave me the option to reach out, and that's rare, and I really appreciate, you guys taking average Joes from around the world in. It's cool.
We appreciate you for coming.
Oh, cool. But the other thing I was going to say, I just forgot, but it's coming just in a second.
Well, while you're thinking, I just wanted to say that what we do is on DefTalk is we realized early on when Defcamp and I talked about doing DefTalk, the first thing DefTalk said, the first thing Defcamp said was, when we do this, we're gonna, of course, interview people that are that are like in the community, like what I mean by is content creators, right?
Yeah.
And theory crafters and players, but the most important thing is that we alternate content creation and players and viewers and fans, because
everyday people.
You're not going to get you're not going to understand the community if you're talking to content creators, because content creators like ourselves, we see the game in a very different way than all of you do. And I think that we see the same. When we play the game, we play it like you guys do, but when we're on content creator mode, it's a totally different thing. We look at it as almost a academic pursuit. You would, you study the game. You study the game in a way that you can.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yep.
But I'm just, that's what draws a guy like me to watch your videos, because I want that in-depth view on the game, because I can't produce that myself, and it's nice to get. It's nice to get smarter. It's a way of, instead of reading article upon article or Wowhead all day or anything, you can get somebody's perspective on how to fix this problem or how to overcome this challenge. Or, I love watching heel versus babyface and have him criticize everything. I think he's a bit of a drama queen, but still, he points out the things that needs to be pointed out. And
he's great.
And it's very interesting for me, because it makes me, think about what it is I invest my money and my time in, and I like somebody, being my, what's the word, my advocate for that.
You're almost like your conscience in a way. Yeah,
because why do I do these world quests every day? Do I do them because Blizzard tells me to? Is it because Ian tries to feed me Azerite power because he says it's fun to get more numbers? Or do I do it because I like being in the world and seeing these zones? Maybe that's why, but do I enjoy this after a month and I've seen the entire world 800 times? Is it still fun? I'm still killing this stone golem in Brustvar, clicking the I button, the green I button, looking for random dudes that don't give a shit about who I am, and then we all mash up and kill a guy in 3 seconds, and then I vanish as soon as possible because sharding is cool. And then what do I do? Why do I do this? And I like to be pointed out that I need to think about what it is that I do, and what the game has turned into.
Absolutely. So I think we talked about this kind of in I think. So do you think was it hard for you? Because I think you did play the game really hardcore at some point. Not hardcore, but a lot. Do you think it's hard to accept the fact that at some point in your life you're going to actually be a casual at this game? Did you was that hard for you to come to that conclusion?
Well, I think it came naturally. My problem with WoW is that I keep relapsing. I actually tried leaving the game so many times, but there's just this, every time I leave, there's this timer in my mind, or my brain. I don't feel it, but one day it sits pling, and I just have to log in. No matter what expansion or what state or whatever anybody says, I just have to get in and smell everything again, smell Azeroth.
Yeah.
So thinking about going back to try and be this, get this second chance on the hardcore vanilla experience, doing a 2-hour Wailing Cavern Caverns run. I would love to do a 2-hour Wailing Caverns run. I would love to, do the Shaman tanking challenge. Progress and find the best shield I can find in the quest, find the best with one-handed dagger I can find, and get my little miniature talent build kind of tanky, and go in and have everybody shut up, CC that guy, and be very careful, and ready on my war stomp and whatever, doing that and having it take 2 hours and doing all that. But how often can I do this? How often do I have time to do this? When will I get tired of having to 2 hours is a long time on a night when you just did 8 hours of work and you've got all your other things to do, and
Absolutely.
It is, but I think that's the beauty of kind of classic is that I know this time through I'm going to be doing that 2-hour Wailing Caverns run, and that's it. That's my whole day. I'm not going to be able to play after that. Especially with like living with my partner and eventually probably having a family one day. That's going to be my whole experience that day. Is going to be going into that dungeon, maybe tanking it, maybe DPSing it, and that's going to be it for me, and that's okay. I've reached a point in my life where that's okay right now, and
especially in Classic where you can feel rewarded, like you said, John. You could get that epic shield. Or not epic, but that awesome Crash shield that that could feel just as rewarding as getting an epic from BWL. You know what I mean? Because
you need it.
It's exactly, and it's so unique in Classic to be able to do that, have that experience where you meet 4 other guys or girls, go into this 2-hour dungeon, spend a lot of time, work together, get to the end goal, get this amazing piece of gear, and you feel like you accomplished something. And where you can log out and say, wow, I couldn't feel this way in BFA or any other game unless I was at end game doing this, doing that. But in Classic WoW, I can log on, do a 2-hour dungeon, get a blue shield, and feel like I accomplished just as much as someone who's raiding and getting an epic. And that's the beauty of Classic WoW, and I think that's the beauty of being a casual in Classic WoW. Is that you can be rewarded just as much as someone who's rewarded.
Because all content is important.
Absolutely.
And BFA can't say that. And Legion couldn't say that.
No.
So that's what makes Classic different, I think.
Well, it's a pacing thing. And what I just hope is that, the statistics you brought up before with what was it, 3 to 4 months getting to level 60?
Yeah, I think most players was between 1 to 4 months. That's what that was the plan.
I can relate to that, and I hope that because then I'm gonna be there during those 4 months, and I will not only have some, because doing Wailing Caverns is not difficult because everybody's going through that phase fairly quickly. But how about Scarlet Monastery? How about the dungeons I don't even remember the names of because I didn't do them in the 50s. All that will I still be in for that? And but that's a personal choice, and it's the casual life, and you have to figure out. How badly do I want to do this? And the thing is that with the way that they pitch it is like the entire thing has this 2-hour lifespan or something, and then they either go forward or reset or something, and then you have that kind of time limit to do stuff in. Because I think that will be the savior too, because you get second chance to do it maybe later, or have the right time in your life to figure out when can I actually go for this.
And I think that's why it's important to social interaction, because if you know you have a limited time to play, and you know that maybe you're not going to become this high warlord or rank tier 3, get all the way up to tier 3, get through next. If you know that's not going to be you, what you can do to contribute to the world is via social interactions, and I think that's. Get into a guild. Go run low-level dungeons. Go help lobies out. Go do local defense. Go be an RPer. Go, there are so many things you can get yourself into. And
play the auction house. You can be the guy who makes the major mana pots or whatever. And and I think it's so unique with Classic WoW and how you can make your character this extension of yourself that really gets noticed, especially in the style of classic, where you have this one server where people remember that guy. Like I always give that example of that guy Shirt, who basically was this guy. His name was Shirt, and he made shirts, and that's what everyone loved him for, is because he wasn't this like crazy guy. No, he made shirts. Everyone wanted to buy them, and that's who he was known as on the server. It's like you could be this small or big person, wherever you want to be, because it's a tight-knit community, one server. People remember who you were. They remember if you were Ninja Luton back in BRD, or if you were some guy who was helping somebody else out. And I think in Classic, it's so unique, and that's why I always say choose your guild wisely, because it can make or break your experience, because your guild in Classic WoW is like your family. If you want to be involved in a leveling guild that's casual, that does some PvP, that will help you level, that will come to your aid when you need help, find a guild that is going to be focused on that. If you want to join a guild and raid, find a guild that focuses on that. You can really pick and choose your family and who you want to play with if you find the right guild. And I think in vanilla, guilds are, and I had a great guild in BC, in Legion, in Wrath, but in vanilla, the guild experience is so amazing. And if you find that right guild, it can really make or break your experience.
Yep.
Do you think you can roll an unlucky server in that regard?
I do. I do think there are some servers that are like, okay, let's say when Classic comes out, let's say the server that Osman Gold runs on, right? And I talked about this before, and you might have a certain kind of player base that is going to be playing on that server because of the person of the high profile that is now playing on the server.
Yeah. I'm not going anywhere near that if I can help it.
Either am I. And I also think that is where we should leave the whole situation with sharding, and we talked about the spawning and all that. If you're going to be playing on a high population server, one of the downfalls is that it's going to be hard grinding mobs and doing things like that. If you want to play on a low population server, then you don't have to worry about finding mobs and finding things and doing things like that, or a medium population server. And that is, as we had a guest on the show before, like Cargo said, the story of the server. Each server has their own story, has their own unique feel to it. And a lot of the times, you want to play on an RP server, on an RP PvP server, on a PvE server. They all have a very different feel to it. And you need to kind of figure out, okay, what am I more suited towards? Am I more suited towards a PvP server? Maybe you want to play on an RP PvP server. Maybe you want to play on a PvE server. And I think you really need to experience and look into it very deeply, what you want to experience. Find the right server, find the right guild within that server, and you can maximize your experience with Classic.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I do want to. We're getting close to an hour, John. Batjohn. I do want to end with your anecdote. So you had a story you wanted to tell. That's a classic WoW story, or WoW story in general.
Well, I feel like this represents what Classic might be able to do to people, as regard to how they play the game. My sister, she's 5 years older than me. And she used to be a very peculiar WoW player back in Wrath. I think I introduced her to the game in Wrath of Lich King, and I played with her or anything. I just told her it was hip, and she started playing on her own.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how she was doing until one day she was level 80, and she was very furious with these Argent tournament quests. You had to ride these horses and with these lances and do these very, very, odd mechanic things to the dailies as a preparation to fight Arthas, I guess.
Yeah,
and she just couldn't get through it, and I couldn't understand how she couldn't get through it, because I was just face rolling them every day, and it was I guess it was fun, but it was not hard whatsoever. And I figured out after a while that she had been playing without a mouse for the entire, spectre of 1 to 80. She just leveled up without a mouse. She was a mage, I remember. She was a mage even. I don't know if that makes it harder or easier, but I know she liked to, walk around and pick up herbs because they were pretty, and gather trinkets because they turned her into a fish, and show that off on a date with someone in there, and get some funny achievements because she liked the flashy sound of it and all that. And then one day her account got hacked and she came out of it. And then a few years back, I introduced her to a private server because I was doing that, and I was like, hey, you remember WoW? And I remember because I was visiting her. She lived in the city, and I had my laptop, and I just logged in for my, I was waiting for her to get done with whatever, and I was logged in, and she just came and looked. Oh, is that WoW? And yeah, it's WoW. And I just saw her eyes, and she was just like, "Oh shit, I have to do this again now." And she was just hooked right back in. But here's the part where she changed, because she used to be this very peculiar noobish player, and the next thing I knew, because we moved in together, I think half a year or a year later, and all of a sudden she was a high-end classic WoW raider, and she was farming herbs all day because she was getting the gold, and she needed to level her alchemy, and she was a priest this time, and she was healing all the big raids whenever they came out, and she was very peculiar with I can't meet up on Thursday because we have a raid, and she had to be there every week, and she was like a machine. She's doing a PhD actually, just like
I can't believe that. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And her planning skills are just out of this world, and the thing is, I figure must have happened is that somebody picked her up in there and just took her through this and gave her the skills and the knowledge, because she knew nothing back in the day. She knew nothing about anything. I was just a normal raider, and I just did ICC on heroic as the biggest thing I ever accomplished back then. So awesome. I guess it took a while to get there, and you had to be consistent, and I had a guild, and they were friends, and you play every day, but she knew nothing, and all of a sudden she just, I'm scared to become her if I ever get into Classic WoW, because she's just so dedicated, and I guess doing a PhD gives you the time in your day to do these things, but at the same time it's a slippery slope. I don't think I could handle it if it was me.
Yeah. But it's amazing.
If you're good at time management, I mean, I played during my PhD, but I was, I said, the days are for this, the nights are for this, or whatever. And I was, my girlfriend, kudos to her for dealing with this, but she, we did long distance for a while, so I didn't have anybody to really come home to when I was, so I would go to school, come home, play WoW,
and playing made us, like when you were able to play, we were able to hang out because. We lived far away. We're like each other's best friends, so it was a way for us to be able to be together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What's really cool about the experience with your sister is that someone took the time to guide her through all of this, and it's very cool. And you really see this a lot in Classic, is there are certain people that are amazing teachers, and they will guide you. And I remember I had people like this that helped me, said, listen, okay, this is how you do this quest. Come with me. I'll show you. And they got nothing out of it. They already did that quest. All they got out of it was maybe me saying 2 weeks later, hey, if you need to heal for something, like, they literally, all they got out of being a good person. Like, there are so many people like that in Classic WoW that get nothing out of it. They just want to help you. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you, enjoy the game like they enjoy the game. And I love that about Classic, and I love the people out there that do that. Thank you so much for you guys out there that are the kind of people that will hold, not hold people's hands, but teach them how to fish, like we like to say. Not give them a fish, but teach them how to fish.
But there's also one big thing I got out of that story. So your sister during the Wrath of the Lich King era is what got out of the game what we say is synonymous with the newer crowd. Doing things because, and these are your words. I don't want to point picture of your sister.
Well, let me get another comparison. We used to play Magic the Gathering together, and she made decks with themes of what was on the pictures.
Exactly. So that's my point. So she was playing the game for aesthetic reasons. She wanted to hear the ding of the achievement. She wanted to go pick flowers. But Classic WoW was still something that she enjoyed, and I'd argue that it's the same reasons. It's just that Classic, there's no need for that achievement thing because everything you do is an achievement. And I think that it drives this thing home is that I do think Classic WoW can be for everyone at some level. I think that we can take these retail players who just are so used to transmogging and doing things because they want, pet battles, and you can feel that niche, you can feel that need in Classic WoW. You just have to know where to look. I think that's,
absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I really think, like you said, that whether it's casual leveling, whether you're a hardcore raider, there's something for everyone. doesn't mean that you're less serious or more serious than anyone. It's just a style that you like to play. And I really enjoyed your perspective, John, because that's why I love having people like yourself on the show who are just, like you said, everyday players that really give the pulse and the heart and soul of what Classic is really. The majority of people who play this game, how they see it, and it really gives the perspective that is, sometimes very refreshing to hear when you're used to hearing the same perspective all the time. You're, like me and my brother always said, we like to get outside of our circle a little bit because it opens horizons, it broadens your mind. You're not going to grow if you surround yourself with the same people all the time. You need to introduce yourself to new things, to new people in order to grow, in order to see the world as it truly is. Because a lot of the times we sit in our own houses, our own mess, and we make things the way we like it, and the rest of the world passes us by, and we don't realize it. So I was really glad that you came out to speak with us tonight, and I really, really, really enjoyed what you had to say. And honestly, I can't thank you enough for coming out and speaking your mind.
And another thing, you got to keep in touch. You got to keep in touch with the shaman tanking thing. I want to know more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I need a guild to back me up on that. Awesome. Otherwise, I'm just gonna get hated on all the time. So yeah.
But I want to hear all these stories, and maybe I'll compile them one day. Because I get all these stories about shaman tanking, make a video and say, look, these people tried it, they did it. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not optimal, but it's definitely viable. That's the thing.
And Melderon's making.
It's a challenge.
Oh yeah, it is a challenge.
Correct.
But Melderon's been making some great videos, like the classic Tales video he just made for a lot of you guys who want to experience what it's like. Just maybe that story of what it's just like leveling and that experience. I think this newest video knocked it out of the park. I just love it. If you get a chance to check it out. But if that's it, guys. I just want to wish you all happy holidays. John, thank you so much for coming out tonight and talking with us. Yes, of course. And until you want to do some cleaning up.
Oh yeah, real quick, guys. DefTalk is available on podcast format, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud. If you want to be on DefTalk, like Batjohn contacted us on melderon.gaming@gmail.com. You can contact us if you want to be on DefTalk. Just a caveat, we are a little behind on the schedule. We will get to everyone. But, we never say no to a request, ever. So we will get you on the schedule. It's just if you want to wait. That's the only thing. Yeah. Right now we're at about a 5-week wait period. But, we're getting there. We're pushing it out as fast as we can. But also, Defcamp is streaming.
Yeah.
More regularly. So you can find him on Defcamp Melderon TV, or you can find him on Twitch at the handle Defcamp. Yep. We're on Twitter at def_meltv, and we have a Discord. The link's in the description. And we're also on Patreon. So just if you're interested in doing the Patreon, that's underneath as well. But I want to thank you, Batjohn, for being here, and I appreciate your waiting and being patient.
No worries, the pleasure's all mine. And let me just say, as a final note, that J.R. Crack is a bully.
Jail on crack, baby.
That's right, baby. Oh, I love it. All right, guys. Happy holidays. I hope we see you. Probably won't see you until. Well, we'll see you until the new year, I'm sure.
Yeah, New Year definitely.
If we don't see you guys, happy holidays. Happy New Year. We love you all. Keep on key binding and grinding, baby. All right.
See you guys.